Our project is taking shape quite nicely, but what we would like to be able to do is to click on the title or the name of one of the characters and have it bring us to a page that displays more information about them. Doing this also allows us to demonstrate some of the advanced routing features of Flask. Let's start by going to our about.html file and add a link into our h3 tags where it shows the loop.index and the member.name. For the href path, let's type href equals /about double curly brackets member.url closing double curly brackets. We will create that member.url value very shortly. Don't forget to move the closing a tag to the end of our h3 after the member.name. I will copy that entire line and paste it into our even row below for the else statement. We could have used member.name, but some of the values have spaces, ampersands, uppercase letters, or accented letters, so that won't work well for a URL path. We are going to create a new key and value in our company.json file. Remember to put a comma after image_source. The new key will be called URL, since our href is pointing to member.url. I will assign the value of Thorin in all lowercase letters. For the next one, again, be sure to add a comma after image_source, but this time it will be URL Kili and Fili. Make sure that everything is all lowercase and any spaces are replaced with a dash, hyphen, or minus symbol. Using the magic of technology, suddenly I have the rest of our URLs all the way down to the bottom, ending with URL Gandalf. Each member has a URL associated with them, that is their name in lowercase letters and no spaces or special characters. After saving the file, go back and reload the page, then hover over Thorin's name, and you can see that it's now a link. If we were to click on that, it will give us an error, not found, which you can see is a 404 error from the tab at the top. The requested URL isn't found on the server, but that was expected since we haven't linked our Python views for this yet. When we look at the address bar, you can see that it was picking up our new member.url path and attempted to navigate to /about/Thorin. Let's just go back to the active page of all members. To get this working now, we need to use some of the advanced routing features in Flask, which means we have to go back to our run.py file and create a new route and view. We cannot just modify our existing /about route here because that's for the page that displays all of our members. Instead, let's create a new route decorator. @app.route /about/ angle bracket member_name closing angle bracket. The angle brackets will pass in the data from the URL path into our view below, and I've opted to call this parameter member_name. I will create the view for this, which is going to be about_member. That can now take member_name from above as an argument. Just to clarify, whenever we look at our about URL with something after it, that will be passed into this view. We'll now create an empty object called member, which we're going to use to store our data in later. Just as we did in our about view, we are going to open our company.json file for read-only access and refer to that as JSON_data. We will then create another variable inside where we pass the data that we've pulled through and convert it into JSON. I could have copied this from lines 17 and 18 above, but repetition helps to remember things better. Next, we will iterate through that data array that we've just created. I will just give the variable name of obj, which is just an abbreviation for object, for obj in data. Then, we want to check if that object's URL key from the file is equal to the member_name we've passed through from the URL path. If object URL wrapped inside of square brackets and quotes is equal to member_name. If they do match, Then we want our empty member object from line 24 to be equal to the object in this loop instance. Just to demonstrate that, we are going to return some HTML, the same as we did in one of our earlier videos. For now, I will just return h1 plus the name key from our member variable plus closing h1. Save the file, then go back to the live preview, and now when I click on Thorin, it should bring up his name as an h1 header, which it does. Go back again and click on Keely and Feely to see what we get. And sure enough, it brings up their names. You can see that the member.name is displaying, but the URL path is picking up member.url properly. When we looked at the Jinja built-in filters on a previous video, two of the filters we could have used are replace and lower. We could have just used member.name in our href links, but added the lower filter to make everything lowercase and the replace filter to convert any spaces to minus symbols, for example. We are not going to use this particular method on this project, but I would like to quickly demonstrate what that would look like. I will make a copy of the entire line so we can keep the original for now. Instead of member.url, I will use member.name. I will start with the replace filter, and I need to replace any space with the minus symbol. Keely and Feely have an ampersand, so I will then replace the ampersand with the actual word and. Owen has a special character in his name, so I'll copy that accented O and replace it with a standard O. Then finally, let's convert the entire replacement to lowercase by using the lower filter. The reason I'm not going to use this method is because if you try to test it out with Thorin's link, you'll get an error. This is because his full member.name is Thorin Oakenshield, but we've set member.url to just Thorin. You would need to modify the Python functionality to look at the member.name instead of the member.url, and also use the replace and lower methods there to get the function set up properly. This was purely just to demonstrate some of the built-in Jinja filters that you could use. That's all quite helpful, but it would be even better if we had a template that was displaying this information. In my templates directory, I will create a new file and call it member.html. We want this page to behave like the other template files, so we need to extend our base.html template. Next, we need to make sure to add our block content, as well as our closing end block. On this page then, let's start by adding some standard Bootstrap grid elements. .row to create a div with a class of row. Within that, .col -md -5 to create our column div spanning 5 spaces. Inside of the column, we want to display the member image. For the source, we'll add double curly brackets member.image_source closing double curly brackets. This time, I will also supply the alt attribute. We really should supply these with all of our images though. The alt attribute is going to say profile image for double curly brackets member.name closing curly brackets. Underneath that, then we'll add an h2 heading with the class of col -md -7 so that it doesn't fill the entire width of the screen. The text for our h2 will be our member's name, so double curly brackets member.name closing curly brackets. Then, outside of our col md5 and below our row, I will create .col -md -12 to span the entire width of the screen. This is where we will add a paragraph tag which contains double curly bracket member.description closing curly brackets. Our HTML file is now created to provide basic information about the member when we click on them. We now need to go back into our run.py file. Instead of returning hard-coded HTML, I will return render template. The first argument is going to be our new member.html template that we just created. The second argument will be member equals member. This first member is the variable name being passed through into our HTML file. The second member is the member object we created above on line 24. Okay, so we can save that, and now when I reload the preview, then click on Thorin, as we can see, it's extending the base.html template, and I have all the basic information about Thorin from our JSON file. If I go back and click on Keely and Feely, it's exactly the same for them. That means it's working for all of our members now. We've created a makeshift database using a JSON file, and we've also seen some very advanced routing features in Flask. We can take that variable, pass that into our URL, and then do something based on that variable. That's the last thing we're going to do with our About page for now. Next, we'll move on to our Contact page and have a look at how to process forms using Flask.